Hello there. Notice has been served for Harmony guilty on all counts. Praise God. Praise God. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Harmony Montgomery. Yes. Thank God justice has been served. Yes. Hey there, Jackie. Hey there, Bucket. That is fabulous news. Fantastic. I'm pleased to see that. Welcome to Child Abuse Awareness with Darlene J. Clark. Please like, subscribe, and share. I got the information scrolling down on the bottom page, but I'll go ahead. Start with the Bible verses, Matthew 18, verse 6. But whoso shall offend one of these little ones which believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck, and that he were drowned in the depth of the sea. Matthew 18, verse 10. Take heed that you despise not one of these little ones, for I say unto you, that in heaven their angels do always behold the face of my Father which is in heaven. Colossians 3:21. Fathers, do not embitter your children, or they will become discouraged. Isaiah 1:17. Learn to do right, seek justice, defend the oppressed, take out the cause of the fatherless, plead the case of the widow. Copyright statute. I need to go ahead and get this off of there. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips balance in favor of fair use. I hope everyone's having a good day today. I'm trying to find that what I had a few minutes ago. That tips for the Utah. It's like it disappeared all of a sudden. And it's scrolling. Here we go. You may not even know it. No fact is insignificant. No detail is too small. If you have any information, please email or call with information. 885 258 3313. This number is answered by representatives of the family, not the police. Or email whokilledrosie@gmail.com. This also is monitored by family, representatives, and the police. Hello and welcome everyone. It's going pretty good. I'm a little tired. I was a little frustrated a little bit ago, but I'm okay. Thank you. The Rosie Tapia, 6-year-old from Utah, is murdered. This has been this is a cold case. Still, there seems to be some proof out there. Some people wonder why the investigation is going nowhere. Without further ado, I'll start you off showing you what all I found. I'm going to first show you her pictures right here, right? Look at this precious little girl. How sweet and precious. Y'all please give hearts for the family. Lots of love. Her right here. Beautiful little girl. Thank you. So this is the map where she lives right here. But I'm going to make this help us solve the crime. Rosie Tapia, and please, y'all, please forward this because the family has got some little tips, little hints that they're saying if you had lived here around this time, if you lived here, if you were here at this time, please reach out to me if you were at the park at this time during this year's. So, y'all, we really got to forward this information out there. The family needs answers. Rosie Tapia was 6 years old when she disappeared from her bedroom at the Heartland Apartments at 1616 Snow Queen Place, about 1700 West and 1700 South, in Salt Lake City, in the early morning hours of August the 13th, 1995. Y'all, since 1995, still no answers. Rosie was taken from a bedroom of the family apartment, brutally sexually assaulted, and dumped into a nearby canal, where her body was discovered hours later. Her killer has never been arrested. Now, 22 years later, her family still seeks justice. They want an arrest, and they want you not just to help, but to solve this horrendous crime. The family is asking for people to come forward with any information that might be useful in any way. Y'all jot down the email address, jot down or the phone number. They want to hear from everyone who might have information, but particularly if you lived in the Heartland Apartments in 1995, if you visited the apartments or were in the area in the months surrounding the murder, were friends with Rosie or family members, had kids who played on the playground there or knew kids who did, were familiar with anyone who lived in the apartments who might have seen someone on the playground or around the area. You recognize anyone in these short videos, YouTube videos. But let me go on down to read this. Someone somewhere has information that can help solve this case. You may not even know it. That's what I got stolen at the bottom of the list here. I will show these before I go to the other places, so I've got to mute my mic so you will not be able to hear me. So bear with me, please.
But we knew that it wasn't. We knew that Rosie wouldn't just climb out of the window at that late at night and just leave and go throw herself in the river because we know she. Wouldn't do that.
Rosie Tapia's sister and family never believed her drowning was accidental. Her mother discovered Rosie missing just before 6 a.m. Sunday, the window of her bedroom open, screen removed. Now autopsy results reveal Rosie was probably sexually assaulted before drowning in the Jordan River Canal, where her body was discovered by a jogger.
It's just so sad because somebody could be so sick to take a baby from her room, from her security, and do such a rotten thing to her. What are we supposed to do? Keep our kids locked up? Our windows locked? Our doors locked? Put bars on our window to keep our kids from being stolen and tossed in a river?
They're following this up with additional statements and interviews of the victims and also witnesses, because it's becoming a larger investigation than maybe it was initially.
One of the avenues under investigation reports that a man was seen hanging around the apartment playground, a man who carried Rosie home Saturday after she fell off the slide.
She said that guy was sitting on one of the benches just watching the kids. And why would a guy just watch kids if he didn't handle kids? He's probably seeing who he's going to hit next.
None of the kids are safe, until they find this person who did this.
Families who live here are now living in fear after the abduction, sexual assault, and murder of 6-year-old Rosie Tapia. Relatives and neighbors are now taking no chances with their own children.
I let my kids run around here, and I want this guy caught because I'm scared that it might happen to my son or my daughter or my other son.
Kara Hansen's daughter was nearly abducted about a year ago.
So what kind of precautions are you taking with your children?
Just staying outside with them while they play, making them come in when I go in, just not letting them play outside by themselves.
Around 8 p.m., authorities brought in a team of bloodhounds to try and track down where Rosie went into the canal. Police suspect the child knew her abductor, and right now there are a few suspects, but very little to go on. A neighbor who lived 2 floors above Rosie's window reported hearing a scream yesterday morning, and other neighbors say a strange man had brought the girl home from this playground Saturday night after she fell.
I don't believe it's somebody we know. Hopefully it's not, because it'd be even more devastated to know that.
Rosie's death comes 1 week after this woman's daughter was abducted and raped from the same apartment complex. This woman says the property managers told her to keep it quiet.
Right now, our main concern is our security. If we're going to have to live here, I think there should be better, either better security or more security.
Security is now everyone's concern, but for Rosie's family, the priority is getting the killer in custody.
For somebody to do this, he had to have a sick mind, very sick mind, to do something like this to a 6-year-old girl.
What began as a tragic drowning is now being called a murder. Here's what we know. Little Rosie was discovered missing just before 6 a.m. yesterday. Police say her bedroom window was open and the screen removed. A jogger discovered her body in the Jordan River Canal, and an autopsy performed today indicates Rosie had been sexually assaulted before drowning in the river.
The erosion of lack of respect for human life, the violence that is increasing among us is appalling. Everyone is grieved by the tragic death of Rosie, and we pray for God's forgiveness of the one who brought such great sorrow on this family.
Now with additional evidence that we've come up with, I think we're going to be doing some more of that, contacting other witnesses, doing some more background investigation on this whole thing, and looking at what evidence we have now closer.
hard would that be?
They came with their children, looking for news, asking for information, and wanting answers. But what residents of the Heartland Apartments heard from homicide detectives is that they're no closer to catching the murderer of Rosie Tapia.
We have some people that were very concerned might be involved in something like this because of their past activity, but we don't have any arrows pointing at the suspects at this point.
Police have committed more manpower to the investigation, but still need any information residents may have. Meanwhile, the apartment management company is pledged to make the complex safer, adding overnight foot patrols, new window locks, and better lighting.
Our primary concern is to regain the confidence of everybody here. We want you to be comfortable.
But ultimately, safety is up to the residents themselves. Tenants signed up for neighborhood and mobile watch and were given information on crime prevention. Residents say they're more at ease.
But I think it does help us feel a little bit safer because we haven't felt safe at all since the incident happened.
I think that they're wanting to keep their tenants calm. I don't think they want to panic, but I really don't think that they've talked much about substance. I feel a little more at ease about some other issues, but they're not directly related to the Tapia murder. So.
Very disheartening, y'all. Tears into my heart. Right here, this was February 27th, 2023, unsolved homicide of Rosie Tapia. When a young girl is abducted from her Salt Lake City home in the dead of night and found in a nearby canal the next day, a decades-long search for the worst kind of predator begins. The hunt for a killer spans more than 2 decades, and it's into the present day in this episode of Last Seen Alive. So Rosie Tapia was 6 years old when she was abducted from her bedroom in Salt Lake City and murdered in 1995. Go back out of there. She is badly missed by her loving family, and investigators are still working to determine the identity of her killer. In 2019, the picture doll manufactured in 1994 was left at Rosie's gravesite by an unknown person. Some believe that the person who left the doll may have some connection to the crime. Privately funded DNA extraction and analysis has been performed on the doll, but the results have not been made public. Rosie was a sweet and fun-loving child. Plus, a little child could have left it. You know what I'm saying? Another child might have had a doll and just thought about leaving. You know what I'm saying? Want her to have a doll. So no telling on who left the doll. Rosie was a sweet and fun-loving child known for her adorable smile. She enjoyed riding her bike, playing Nintendo, and playing with other neighborhood children at her apartment complex's playground. Her life was cut short by a child predator who is yet to be identified. See these pictures right here. This sketch depicts a man known as a Good Samaritan from that evening before Rosie's death. In 1995, he picked her up from where she was playing at her apartment complex's playground and carried her home to her apartment. He fabricated a story about Rosie being injured on the playground as an explanation for his behavior. It's possible that he created a ruse in order to learn which unit Rosie lived in so he could return later that night. Investigators have yet to identify the Good Samaritan, Do you recognize him? This sketch depicts a man seen by a witness early in the morning shortly after Rosie was killed. Do y'all think it's the same guy right here? Because this was a guy that was seen leaving the canal, and he had wet pants on. He was walking away from the nearby canal, and his pants were visibly soaked. Rosie's body was found in the canal hours later. Investigators have yet to identify this man. Do you recognize him? There's a lot of other news right here in this as well. But I see this over here. Let's go over here to I want to tell about this other girl in Idaho Springs, right? Yes. Southern kid in Idaho. Idaho, Utah, sorry, Salt Lake City. This was another 6-year-old child that's dead, right? Outstanding police work, some lucky breaks, a strong hunch, and possibly even divine intervention led to the arrest of a man accused of murdering 6-year-old Sierra Newbold. When y'all hear this, y'all going to see what I'm talking about it being too much connected. The cases are similar. Miracles do happen, said West Jordan Police Chief Douglas Diamond. I'm not going to say it's not divine intervention. I myself believe it is divine intervention. Terry Lee Black, age 41, who lives in the young girl's West Jordan neighborhood, was charged Tuesday with capital murder, child kidnapping, and rape of a child, all the first-degree felonies. We're very glad this crime has been solved, that we've been able to arrest somebody for the death of Sierra Newbold. Tracking down Black. Investigators say Sierra was taken from her West Jordan home in the middle of the night on June 26, which she was taken as well. Rosie Tapia. Tapia, they pronounce it Tapia. Black entered the Newbold home 2383 West 7095 South at 3:05 a.m. on June 26 through a sliding glass door. A home security camera recorded someone leaving the house apparently carrying something at 3:13 a.m. according to the charges filed in 3rd District Court. So y'all please give hearts to this little girl as well that lost her life because of this, because of whoever did this to her. To Terry Black, that he did that to her. Okay. Kathy Newbold called police about 7:30 a.m. after she noticed the sliding door was open, then discovered her daughter was not in her bed. Another 6-year-old also, see? That's the West Jordan Police Chief Doug Diamond and Salt Lake City District Attorney Sim Gill announced murder and child rape charges against Terry Lee Black, 41, in the death of 6-year-old Sierra Newbold in Salt Lake City Tuesday, July the 10th, 2012. And put in mind, when y'all see the guy's picture in a few minutes, remember Rosie was 1990 something, right? This is 2012. So, add the years here. Sierra had been sexually assaulted, strangled, and then drowned in a nearby canal. An autopsy determined. So, what y'all think about that? Very strange and similar too. Yes, giving hearts to Sierra right now. Lots of love to Sierra's family. But how Black was caught is nothing short of a miracle. Salt Lake County District Attorney Sim Gill had high praise for West Jordan Police Tuesday, particularly Detective James Bigelow, who headed the investigation under enormous pressure from the public. His work, combined with an unbelievable set of chance circumstances, led to Black's arrest. Circumstances that led? Come on, there's a circumstance about the other one. I hope y'all are looking into him about this. This was the epitome of good police work. They connected all the dots, Gill said. On June 29th, 3 days after Sierra's body was found, police say Black stole a Jeep Grand Cherokee from the Deseret Industries parking lot at 7166 South Redwood Road. The vehicle's owner told her boss about the stolen vehicle, according to court documents. I think it's kind of funny. Maybe that's what he did. He was maybe not in the area of Rosie and stole a vehicle to get to, right? Black then allegedly entered Wells Fargo Bank at 7869 South Redwood Road and attempted to rob the bank of $100. Wow. The boss, who was told about the stolen vehicle, happened to go to the bank at the same time to make a deposit and spotted her employee's missing Jeep. Wow. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. She confronted Black in the parking lot. The woman told him, "Get away from the car." Charging documents state. Black walked away and the woman took a picture of him with her cell phone. Wow. Detective James Bigelow has that sixth sense that a lot of cops have, as he put it. When he heard this call come, his hair stood up on the back of his neck and he knew he needed to respond. When police were called to the bank for the stolen Jeep, Bigelow, realizing the bank was a general area of Sierra's home, decided he needed to be there too. He has a sixth sense that a lot of cops have, Diamond said. As he put it, when he heard the call come, the hair stood up on the back of his neck, and he knew he needed to respond. How he knew that, we may never know. When Black was stopped by police, they learned that he lived in an apartment complex near the canal where Sierra's body was found. Then another set of chance circumstances and Bigelow's sharp eyes helped police get one step closer to unraveling the case. I wonder where he was living during Rosie's. Even if he wasn't living right there, it's still the same city. They did mention Jordan on Rosie's too. Evidence against Black. Bigelow noticed that Black had debris on his knees of his pants that looked like it could have come from Black's soot in a field where Sierra's pajamas were found. Wow. A fire had burnt the field and two homes in the neighborhood just days before Sierra's death. Here's the culprit right here, y'all. They killed Sierra. Does he look anything possibly like the suspect in Rosie Tapia's? I go back up here. No, I think it's. Oh, I don't know. Black was wearing the same clothes he had been wearing 3 days earlier when he allegedly kidnapped Sierra from her home and took her to the burned out field. At some point, Black apparently bent down on his knees in the field, police said. Bigelow has been keen enough to recognize ashes and soot on Black's clothing and make the connection. Yeah, he's heavier, but you got to put in mind it's been close to 10 years. It could be heavier. As we get a little older, we get a little heavier too. Sierra's body and clothing also had soot from the field on them, according to the charges. Later forensics tests were conducted, and prosecutors say Black's DNA matched DNA found on Sierra's body. Yeah. I think this said, I'll go back to it in a minute. I think it said 2023. And hers was in the 90s. Later forensics were conducted, and prosecutors say Black's DNA matched DNA found on Sierra's body. If Bigelow had not investigated the stolen vehicle call at the attempted bank robbery, Gill said the case may still be unsolved. Diamond concurred, if not for Bigelow's ability to connect the dots and recognize that the charcoal on Black's pants could have come from the murder scene, this crime investigation could have gone a totally different direction. We could have booked him into jail and never realized he was our murder suspect. So let me go up here and find out this date of this, when this was, let's see, I have to go all the way to the top again, right here. Oh, 2012. So it wasn't really recent, but it was over 10 years. Because it was in the 90s when. Okay, scrolling down. I'm sorry for y'all. I hope I'm not making y'all too dizzy. Okay, here's question still unanswered. Black had lived in the neighborhood for about 10 years. His wife and children are active in the LDS ward and attend church services with the Newbold family. Who was that we did yesterday on the child abuse? Was it the two ladies? Y'all remember? They were with the LDS also. Although police said Black attended the same church, the bishop of the ward said Black is not LDS and had only attended a few church functions over the years. The Blacks, Newbolds, and the entire neighborhood have been devastated by the recent events, Bishop Von Shosted said. Sierra's parents were notified about 8:30 a.m. Tuesday of the arrest and charges. It took them a minute to recognize Black, Diamond said, but eventually they did. So they recognized, Sierra's took them a minute to recognize Black, but eventually they did. They were shocked and saddened at the same time, he said. Whether Sierra was picked at random or had been stalked, or whether Black had ever been inside the Newbold house before, were all questions still being investigated Tuesday, according to Gill. Diamond also thanked the Newbold family for their cooperation and patience. They didn't know any more than what the media knew, he said. Black is still being held in the Salt Lake County Jail in lieu of $2 million bail. I hope he never gets that bail. We need to check into it, see if he's still alive or whatever, since this was 2012. Black also faces robbery and transfer of a stolen vehicle charges in relation to the June 29 crimes, and that put him on the radar of investigators. Here's his criminal history, y'all. Utah court records show Black pled guilty in March to a 2008 to a vehicular burglary charge. A warrant was issued for his arrest June 8, failing to comply with probation. In 2006, he pled guilty to an amended charge of attempted forgery and intoxication. As part of his plea bargain, an additional charge of misdemeanor lewdness was dismissed. He was placed on 12 months probation. Misdemeanor lewdness? Ah, he was nasty. Black faced several charges in Richfield in the early 90s, including supplying alcohol to a minor. To a minor, y'all. So he's already messing with minors. Look. In the 90s. And disorderly conduct and assault on a police officer. Black has been paying down a debt of child support, and the most recent payment was made July the 4th. He owes more than $15,000 in back payments for child support. In '93, he was named in a paternity suit at Richfield's 6th District Court. Now here's where Tapia comes in, the family. Okay? Tapia family has questions. Family members of a little girl who was sexually assaulted and killed 17 years ago, but this was 2012. So, like I said, this was the 17 years after that picture of that other person. Are hoping Black's arrest may shed some light on what had happened to Rosie Tapia. On one hand, Amelia Elizondo is happy the man suspected of killing Sierra Newbold has been caught. On the other hand, she still has a great amount of frustration. I'm frustrated at the fact they haven't found the person that did that to Rosie, she said. Elizondo hopes investigators look at whether Black had anything to do with her little sister's disappearance. Yeah, she's got it. There's more to the case than what we know. I gotta let y'all know about that. There's more to it in a few minutes. I think even if he didn't have anything to do with it, I think he should be checked out, she said. She's not accusing Black of being involved in a crime, but she says there are too many similarities to ignore. Everything happened the same way. Rosie was taken in the middle of the night, found in a river, and sexually assaulted, she said. Okay, y'all ready for the other proof? There's the justice files a break or just coincidence in the Rosie Tapia cold case. This will be shocking, y'all. See, where was this? This was in 2020, okay? This was posted in January 15th, 2020, okay? Danny Woodland was prepared to be interviewed by police after Rosie Tapia was found murdered. 24 years later, he's still waiting. Back in 1995, he admitted to sneaking into the same bedroom where Rosie slept, but Woodland's purpose was to meet her older sister. That was older sister's bedroom, Woodland said. But then she moved out of the house and Rosie and her twin siblings took over the room. Tapia was kidnapped from her bedroom. The intruder used the window to get in. Her killer had never been arrested. From the outset, police targeted family members, but it turned into a dead end. It now appears the police didn't either ask or knew of these acquaintances of Rosie's older sister. I was waiting because of the situation with me going in that window, Woodland said. I was just shocked that the cops never come and called me or anything. See, he's waiting because he's innocent. He watched the news of Rosie's tragic death and has watched for developments, Woodland said. The Tapia family needs closure. He said it's been long enough. Cops should have solved this for day one, he said. The family needs closure, and it happened 24 years ago. Of course, this is 2020. But last spring, Woodland said he got a phone call from a friend that he used to hang with during that time period. The call came after the creation of the latest composite was reportedly exclusively on ABC Channel 4 in March. The composite that we showed you a little bit ago. At the time, only partial images of the composite were released until the police had a chance to investigate it first. He made the comment that it would be funny if it looked like one of us, Woodland said, referring to the friends that hung out around there, especially me because of me sneaking in the window. Back in '95, Woodland used the... Which one said that? Come here, let me go back and say that. Woodland said that his friend said. His friend's the one that said it, okay? Wouldn't it be funny if it looked like one of us? Back in '95, Woodland used the same bedroom window where Rosie was abducted to have late-night rendezvous with the older sister. He said his friends and others would drop him off. Woodland said his friends knew of the window. Yeah. He saw me climb in it, Woodland said. But Woodland said he never saw the friend climb through the window, but he did come inside through the main doors when the parents were gone. Yeah, he went with me, he said. This latest revelation took Rosie's mother by surprise. I guess they sat around the table and had a few beers, and I found out my mother was there too when they came, said Rosie Tapia. I never knew anything about this. When the composite was officially released in May, Woodland texted his friend. I texted and said, "That looks like you, dude." So Woodland called out and said, "That looks like you," to his friend, right? He called me back, "No, that ain't me. It looks like you. It looks more like you than it did me." A witness who was never interviewed by police helped create the composite in March. Last week, in a photo lineup conducted by the Tapia's private investigator, the same witness picked his friend out. Wow. See what we're saying? The same witness picked him out? The one that saw him? Why isn't he arrested? Y'all see what I'm saying? He was the dude in the picture that she had seen, and she picked him up out in a lineup. The friend, not Woodland, but his friend. Wow. Wow. The guy that done it, he's got 24 years free will and said, I mean, he ought to at least be decent human being about it. Have some dignity. Give the family some closure. Woodland said his friend denied having anything to do with Rosie's murder. I don't know the guy, but I don't know, but he was even chose in a lineup. But they all would always deny. But what about the comment that he made to his friend, to Woodland, saying, wouldn't it be funny if the composite ended up looking like us? Looking like one of us? So that's kind of like a dead giveaway there, huh? And he's seen his friend go into that window a lot of times, right? I wish we knew the friend's name so we could look him up and see if he's got any past criminal activity, right? Now they just care about getting caught. That's all. Red flag big time, right? They got the composite sketch of the dude. He was picked out in the lineup. Why is he not arrested? Are y'all wondering that same thing too? He said Salt Lake City police paid his friend a visit Tuesday. Woodland told him he shouldn't worry if he's innocent. He told his friend DNA would give police their answer. Woodland also said if police want his DNA as well, he's ready to offer it. A spokesman for Salt Lake City Police said they will investigate any new leads that come to their office. But the spokesman said they had no comment about this latest information. Wow. Wow. To me, there's too many coincidences about the boy being there, about the guy being there. And then him looking like the guy from the day before that picked her up from the when she fell off the slide, supposedly, took her into her house apartment. Already knew how to get in that window. I guess it so happened that I don't know if he's been stalking her or anything, but it's kind of weird. And then the next day, somebody climbs in that window that he knew how to get in because his friend used to do it. He was in that home himself, as Woodland has said. This is a scary situation now when nothing's been done to him as of yet. I would hope that they find out who it was, but that's circumstantial evidence right there. If they even seen him, his pants soaking wet, coming out of the, oh man, coming out of the water, his pants were soaking wet. The same dude that fits a composite sketch, the one she picked up in the lineup. Wow, wow, wow. And if he's innocent, and maybe there are other people that look a lot like him too, which that's possible. But my friend said, don't be nervous if you're not guilty. He had so many years to get rid of whatever clothing that he had. He had a lot of years to get rid of and dispose of. Why would he even bring that up? Wouldn't it be funny if we look like the person? I wouldn't think it'd be funny at all, right? Why would he bring that to the awareness? That's kind of creepy in itself, too. So the guy looked like he was incognito, too, because he's wearing a baseball hat. A lot of times they do that when they don't want you to see what kind of hair they got. But there are a lot of people that wear baseball hats going around and stuff as well. This is sick, y'all. Please get it out and forward this on because family needs and deserves answers. I had also seen, let me go back to, yeah, let's see. Remember the Utah's family search for hope and justice, unsolved murder. So let me go to get off of that right there. I'll go back to share the screen again so that y'all can see more. I think the more I show, the better. Hearts for the little girl. She remembered Rosie searches for hope and justice in the 23-year-old unsolved murder of Rosie Tapia. This was in 2019. No, this is now 2024. So it's been 5 more years, so 28-year-old unsolved murder of Rosie Tapia. Roberto and Louise Tapia talk about their daughter Rosie Tapia after a January the 18th press conference in Salt Lake City discussing cold cases, unsolved homicide, and missing person cases in Utah. Rosie Tapia was taken from her bedroom window in 1995, assaulted, and the body dumped in a nearby canal. There's never been an arrest in case nor suspect named. There are different pictures here. As we've seen, some of this we didn't see. It's not all that clear right here. That's like the funeral, the vigil. There's a composite drawing. Louise Tapia stood in front of television cameras and reporters in August of 2018 for what felt like the 100th time. The sun glared down on her with unrelenting heat, and the inquiries all stayed the same. But still, questions remain. Who killed Rosie? Who is the individual known by the family and investigators as Good Samaritan? When will their daughter find justice? For 23 years, Tapia has been searching for these answers, and for 23 years she's got nothing but dead-end leads and mostly frustration from working with the police, according to the family. But now she hopes to find some answers to her questions through a renewed relationship with the Salt Lake City Police Department, better DNA technology, interest from a national television network, and help from a local group of investigators. Yes, she needs justice. Where's Rosie? When she woke up early that Sunday morning, August the 13th, 1995, and walked into her daughter's basement bedroom, Louine found the curtains drawn, the blinds lying on the floor, the screen removed, and the window wide open. 6-year-old Rosie was gone. A few hours later, Rosie's body was found in the surplus canal connected to the Jordan River a few blocks northwest of their home. See, that other guy said it's West Jordan, a few blocks northwest of their home. More than 24 hours later, the family learned Rosie had been sexually assaulted and brutally injured. The evening before the girl's disappearance, sibling Amelia walked 6-year-old Rosie to the apartment complex's play area and left her to swing and slide before bedtime. But just minutes after returning to the apartment, Amelia looked out the family room window and saw a man approaching, carrying Rosie. She met him at the apartment door. She was on the slide and got kicked in the back by another kid, the man said. Amelia told him she would check Rosie and took her from the man. Bye, Rosie, the man said as Amelia closed the door. How did he know your name? Amelia asked. I don't know, replied Rosie, telling her half sister that she hadn't been hurt on the playground. Wow. She hadn't been hurt on the playground? Wow. How did he know her name, right? How did he know her name? Exactly. This is for Rosie and her family. That's right. How did he know her name, y'all? She said she hadn't been hurt. This grown man picked her up and took her over there. There must have been other people out there that coming up that he's like, I better, instead of take her now, there's other people around making that excuse. Y'all know what I'm saying? And making sure where she was at. Private investigator Jason Jensen can't shake the mystery surrounding the Good Samaritan as he reviews the details of Rosie's case in a dimly lit conference room in Salt Lake City more than 23 years later. On one hand, in 2007, Detective Mickey Paul reported that he interviewed the man who brought Rosie home and cleared him as a Good Samaritan. But then, in 2010, 15 years after the crime, police obtained a composite drawing of the man who brought Rosie home. The description was provided by the babysitter, Rosie's older sister, Jensen explained. The Utah Cold Case Coalition, which is seeking to help solve what it says are more than 200 cold cases in Utah, released the sketch of a man that it believes brought 6-year-old Rosie Tapia to her home the night before she disappeared. There he is again. Better sketch. So put in mind that was 1995. Now it's got to be a lot older. Immediately following the discovery of Rosie's body in 95, the police followed up with the man they thought might be the Good Samaritan. The man often hung around the swing set area of the Heartland Apartments, playing his guitar for the kids, drawing suspicions for neighbors and the Tapia family in particular. However, investigators learned the guitar man had a young son and would often take him to the park. To further corroborate the belief that it wasn't the guitar man who brought Rosie home, the police found he was a biker who had been out of town on a trip and returned too late that evening to be the person who brought Rosie back from the play area. When I saw that video, I thought one of them guys sitting there looks a lot like it could be him. So I guess that's who they're talking about, right? That's probably who they're talking about. That guy sitting on the ground with the longer hair. But he had a kid, and he wasn't there, so he was cleared. So now I feel better about that. But according to Jensen, investigators at the time concluded he did bring Rosie home that night and had lied about it when he met with them. They decided it was meant to be a good deed on his part, thus deeming him a good Samaritan and closing the book on this possible person of interest. However, renewed interest in and confusion surrounding the stranger became apparent when police released his sketch in 2010. Investigators no longer believe the Good Samaritan and the guitar man were the same person. If the guy who brought Rosie Tapia home was a Good Samaritan, why would you publish a drawing of the guy asking for someone to identify him? Jensen asked. There's a drawing of her, the mother Rosie Tapia, who was taken from her home, raped, and her body dumped into the Jordan River 10 years. Well, it's been over 10 years. Wipes some tears away as she speaks at 2005 vigil trying to get support for the community in the search for the person who committed the crime. While Jensen thinks this individual is key to the case, no one has been clearly identified as a Good Samaritan. But a new lead may be developing through media coverage of the August 2018 press conference at Jensen with Louise Tapia standing nearby made the latest plea to seat Salt Lake City residents. A former resident at the Heartland Apartments called the Utah Cold Case Coalition tip line and said he thought the drawing looked like a young man who knew back in 1995. The man would hang out with this resident and his friends at the Hartley complex in an apartment overlooking the area where Rosie would often play. While this latest lead is still being investigated, Jensen believes it makes sense that the Good Samaritan will be the killer. It is just as plausible of a theory that the person who brought her home did so to learn where she lived in order to know where to come back for her later that night, Jensen said. For the first 24 hours after Rosie disappeared, the police explored the idea that she had wandered off on her own. I think that's something the police tried to tell us so that they wouldn't try to dig further into what happened to her. So we wouldn't call for a bigger investigation. Wow, they tried to blame her for walking away? Wow, y'all see that? They're trying to blame her that she wouldn't even walk out the door, that she would climb through the window, knock down the blinds, and all that other stuff. Drown in the lake, all that other kind of stuff. Sexually abuse herself, excuse me. So James Lopez, Rose's uncle, who helped in the search that morning, agrees. There was no urgency when he asked if we could put the flyers out. We didn't feel like there was any urgency like there is now. If there was urgency, you might have saved her life. Salt Lake Police Department Detective James Spangenberg said that wandering off was just one option police explored at the time, along with the idea of kidnapping. Well, you see, the sister was a babysitter. The sister took her over there and left her to swing. Now the sister probably blames herself about that. As Spangenberg said, evidence found later changed the thinking of officers working the case and confirmed suspicions of kidnapping. During the hours after Rosie's disappearance, police said detectives combed the apartment and neighborhood looking for clues. Family members gathered to hand out flyers and search for Rosie. That first morning, as Amelia was riding in a police car on her way to the station to give a statement, a voice came over the radio said a small female body had been found in the canal. At that point, Amelia said she already knew it was Rosie. Rosie's body was found floating face down in the middle of the canal, half of her body visible, the other half submerged. Police described the body like a doll in the water. That's when they say goodbye to sweet Rosie. However, according to Jansen and family members, the police still maintain that Rosie had probably just wandered off and had accidentally drowned in the canal. They were still trying to say that, y'all. After examining Rosie's body, evidence shows signs of drowning, blunt force trauma, and sexual assault. That evidence made it impossible to claim Rosie had merely wandered off. The medical examiner released findings that she was sexually assaulted, Jensen said. According to Jensen, while the sexual injuries were brutal, they were not obvious at a glance. He says that may be why police did not consider the possibility of kidnapping seriously enough during the first 48 hours, which are so crucial to solving a murder case. It is believed police recovered a small amount of DNA evidence from under Rosie's fingernails. Unfortunately, in 1995, when the murder occurred, DNA technology was not what it is today. And while the small amount of DNA found on Rosie's body can still be tested, forensic labs would expect to see signs of degradation after all this time. Over the last couple of years, the Tapia family had experienced a renewed and improved relationship with the Salt Lake City Police Department. They now meet every few months to discuss details of the case and any new leads that have come up as police continue to investigate. Leads are coming in all the time, and all those leads are being followed up on. Forensic evidence is still being analyzed. People are being interviewed. The case is being actively worked, Spangenberg said. Last fall, through a plea from a family member, Investigation Discovery Network, which is owned by the Discovery Channel, heard about Rosie's story and wanted to know more. After communicating with the Tapias, the network decided to feature the case on an episode of On the Case with Paula Zahn, which aired March 3rd, which did air probably March 3rd. Former Salt Lake detective Gordon Parks walked along the bank of the Jordan River Canal in October 2018, explaining the details of finding Rosie Tapia's body. He is accompanied by Investigation Discovery Network TV producer Judy Artime, or Artime, and cameraman Ben McCoy. So we'll go back up here for a minute. Discovery Channel, Investigation Discovery, okay? Look for On the Case with Paula Zahn. Look up Rosie Tapia. So on a chilly morning in October 2018, former detective Gordon Parks walked along the banks of the canal and pointed out to producer Judy Artemi and crew members where Rosie's body was found. Rosie's mom, Louise, said on the case with Paula Zahn is having a DNA expert take a new look at the evidence as well. The show will feature interviews with family members, investigators, and others involved in Rosie's case. The national attention could play a role in solving the case. Additionally, the Tapia family is receiving support from local organizations such as the Utah Cold Case Coalition. The group meets often to discuss the details of this case and other cold cases in Utah. The coalition also offers rewards for information, a tip line, and resources to aid in solving forgotten cases. We don't have the last chapter, Jensen said. You have the last chapter, it's a solved case. Though that last chapter is still unwritten, there may be several twists and turns in Rosie's story before it happens. As Louise stood in the same hot summer sun, answering reporters' questions, a new chapter was unfolding. State legislators passed Rosie's Law in 2018, requiring a statewide database containing information on unsolved missing persons and homicide cases that are more than 3 years old. That database has been launched. Though it may not immediately resolve Rosie's case, it provides hope for her family and so many others whose cases have been gone cold. Sorry. Now I will mute my mic yet again so that you can hear the video. You will not be able to hear me.
So that day, I was home, but I was getting ready to go out with a friend. We had a bachelorette party to go to that night. And so that's where I went Saturday night. And that was the last time I saw Rosie. Rosie was a happy, energetic child.
Rosie had the cutest laugh, the prettiest smile. She just had a cute personality. And she was my sister. She was my bratty sister that I picked on because me and her were 12 years apart.
Rosie was in between my girls. So when she passed, it affected my kids. I mean, my son, my two daughters, I mean, they would not sleep in their room for 2 years. They were scared. And they're still scared. I mean, they live in an apartment building. They live on the 3rd floor because they won't live below.
When Rosie passed away, I think it brought us more closer. But we never really talked about it that much. We just bottled it up in us. He sorrowed his way, I did my sorrow my way, but I think it brought us more closer to as a family and to the kids.
I try not to get hopeful whenever we hear something, and I try to put that on my mom too, because I know she gets her hopes up, and I understand why. Like, of course she wants it solved.
Now sometimes we wonder what she look like if she would have had kids, if we would still be close like we were,
Okay, I hope you can hear me. It's just very touchy. Okay. Here we go to the Justice Files 100,000 reward offered in Rosie Tapia's cold case. This was in 20 updated 2023. It was August the 12th, 2022. It was updated June the 5th, 2023. So a $100,000 reward is now being offered to help solve the murder of Rosie Tapia. The 6-year-old was taken from her bedroom in '95, and the next day she was found floating along the canal that borders the apartment complex in Salt Lake City. Rosie's murder remains unsolved and has turned into a cold case. Maybe 100,000 is enough to incentivize someone to break silence and tell us what happened, said Jason Jensen, the family's private investigator. Someone could call, even anonymously, and tell us what happened. Saturday marks the 27th anniversary of her murder. It is one of the longest running unsolved crimes in Utah. It gets harder every year because I've been seeing a lot of these cold cases getting solved, and there are a lot more years than Rose's, said Louise Tapia, Rosie's mother. Previous attempts to solve the crime has failed to produce a suspect. Composites of suspect have been released to the public with no results. In 2008, Salt Lake City police offered a $30,000 reward for information about Rosie's murder. It wasn't enough for someone to come forward. Family's private investigator claimed Rosie's murder was tied to gangs. At the time, Rosie's older sister was part of a local gang. Do what? With more information, her older sister was part of a local gang. Wow. Now that puts a little bit. We're believing that because sister was part of a gang, a rival gang had it out for her and somebody targeted her, said Jensen. But because it was no longer sister's bedroom, they snatched her sister instead. So likely there's more than a killer that knows about this. Rosie's mother hopes a $100,000 reward added to the police reward of $30,000 will be enough to someone to step out of the shadows. If they need that money, come forward and give the correct information that we're waiting for. The Tapia. That would help us a lot. Saturday, Rosie's mother and others will gather at the canal to mark the occasion. Anyone with information about the case is urged to contact Jensen and the Cold Case Coalition. Now we'll go to over here, and I hope it's going to let me play it, but don't look like it will. The media cannot be loaded. So anyway, please get this story out. Yeah, it makes the case very. It makes me sad. Puts tears to my eyes. You know, it's horrible. I'm glad that you brought this to my attention, Chris. And I went ahead last night. I said I couldn't look at it last night, but then when I looked at it, glanced at it, then I just continued reading and reading. It's like I've got to say something. You know what I'm saying? And I want to thank you for giving me the information where I could. Got so much out there, like even the person that said that one guy, that's the guy we seen in the canal. That's the guy. Pinpointed him. Thank you so much, Chris. Yeah, I can understand why this case will get to you too. Let's pray. Everybody, even Chris, everybody send out hearts for the family of Rosie Tapia. Please share this because it's got a lot of things in here which some people might not know. Hey, I used to live in that area back in Utah then. Hey, I that composite sketch reminds me of somebody. Hey, hey, things click. What about one thing that I wonder too? When they were talking to one of them other ladies, they said her daughter was almost abducted. Just like, did she see who that person was that almost abducted her child? So that's what I'm wondering now too, since it didn't talk about that on who and where that other girl was when she was almost abducted. Her daughter lived in the same apartments. Thank you, everybody, and God bless. Keep these stories going. Let's help the survivors and all. So I'll do whatever I can, Chris. Thank you, Chris. Everybody give our hearts again before I close this for the family. Of Rosie Tapia and also the family of Sierra Nevada, since that case is so similar to this case. It's got a weird feeling about that. Too many coincidences in that, unless it's kind of like a copycat. There are some copycat crimes out there. Thank you so much. May God bless y'all. And I'll talk to y'all soon. Much love to you too. I appreciate you too. God bless us all. That's right. Y'all have a good night and do something special for yourselves too. Y'all are worth it. God bless.